Revelation chapter 15, verse 1 presents a pivotal moment in the scriptural narrative of the end times, marking the introduction to the 7 last plagues. The verse reads, "Then I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them the wrath of God is complete." This scene is set in heaven and carries significant weight for understanding the culmination of divine judgment and the completion of God's wrath upon the earth. The imagery of a sign in heaven, great and marvelous, emphasizes the extraordinary nature of what the Apostle John is witnessing. This is not merely another event, it's presented with a gravity and magnitude that demands attention. The term sign suggests that these occurrences are symbols with deeper meanings, pointing beyond themselves to spiritual truths about God's character and His plan for the world. In the context of this book, such signs often serve as divine communications, heralding major events in the unfolding of God's plan for humanity. The number 7 in biblical terms frequently denotes completeness or perfection. The 7 last plagues carried by these angels signify the full and final expression of God's wrath. Unlike previous judgments described in Revelation, these plagues represent the conclusion of God's punitive actions against rebellion and wickedness on the earth. The use of the word last underscores their finality. There will be no further plagues after these. God's wrath will have reached its consummation. Understanding the concept of God's wrath is crucial. It is not the petulant rage of human anger, nor is it an impulsive or unjust expression of violence. God's wrath, as depicted in the Bible, is a holy and righteous response to sin and rebellion. It is the necessary reaction of a holy God against that which is fundamentally opposed to His nature and to the order of His creation. This wrath is not contradictory to His love. Rather, it complements it by affirming God's commitment to justice and the eradication of sin that mars His creation and harms His creatures. The role of the 7 angels with the 7 plagues also deserves attention. Angels are often portrayed as God's messengers or agents of His will, executing His judgments and delivering His messages. The depiction of these particular angels with plagues suggests a direct divine intervention in the affairs of the world, a carrying out of decreed judgments that are both just and necessary for the eventual restoration of all things under Christ. For believers, this vision serves as a somber reminder of the seriousness with which God views sin and the lengths to which He will go to purge it from His creation. It also points forward to the hope beyond the judgment. The completion of God's wrath paves the way for the establishment of His kingdom in fullness, where sin and its effects are no more, and where His justice, peace, and holiness prevail eternally. Moreover, this passage should not be read in isolation, but as part of the broader narrative that includes God's promises of redemption and restoration. The Bible consistently teaches that God's ultimate goal is not destruction, but renewal. The eradication of sin via the plagues sets the stage for the renewal of creation, free from the corruption and decay caused by human sinfulness. For those who do not yet believe, the imagery of the plagues serves as a potent warning of the reality of divine judgment. It underscores the urgency of reconciling with God through Jesus Christ, who offers forgiveness for sins and protection from the coming wrath through His death and resurrection. It's a call to turn from rebellion against God and to embrace the hope offered in Christ. In interpreting this passage, it is also important to consider its original audience and their circumstances. The early Christians who faced persecution and suffering would find comfort in knowing that God's justice would prevail, that their suffering was known to God, and that He would vindicate His people and right all wrongs. The assurance that God's wrath against sin would be completed would provide them with the perseverance needed to endure trials and remain faithful. Revelation chapter 15 verse 1 is rich with theological and practical implications. It reminds us of God's sovereignty over history, the seriousness with which he regards sin, the certainty of his judgment, and the hope of eventual restoration and renewal. As such, it calls for a sober reflection on our own lives, urging us to live in a manner that aligns with God's will and to embrace the grace offered through Jesus Christ, thereby ensuring our place in his eternal kingdom, free from the pain and plague of sin.